With the support and resistance video, we are going to refer to the charts after we complete each section. What we're going to do is we're going to use the NAS 100, which is the US NASDAQ index, and we're also going to use GBP USD, the Forex pair. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to just look at ways to identify support and resistance. We're looking for reaction areas and stall areas. So for the NASDAQ, we are on the daily time frame, and it's very, very simple. You're just looking for areas where the market has made strong movements after it reached the level. So you could have one here, and then we see a significant amount of buying pressure coming into the market. You could have one down here, again, strong buying pressure comes into the market. You've got one down here, strong buying pressure comes into the market. Now, what we're also doing is we're looking for areas where the market has stalled, like this. So the market has came up to this level and it has just moved sideways for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. This is a Sunday. So this is showing the weekend of trading. So we just ignore these candles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trading days of just basically moving sideways. So this is potentially an area of support and resistance. If we come to the left, again, we're seeing the market pressing up into resistance and then falling away. We're finding support and then we're pressing higher. Now, as you start to move up, you've also got little levels like this. Really, these are a lot more minor. If this is the only thing that you're seeing, you want to be a little bit careful of plotting support and resistance levels around them, because what you can end up doing is, let's say we're working on this level of price action. You could have a level here. You could then say, okay, the market's stalled here, so I want one here. You could have one here, and then you could have one here. You could have one up here. Then you could start to have one down here. And what starts to happen is the market your chart gets way too cluttered. You're focusing on levels that are not showing significant price reactions. What you are trying to do is pick out the key levels. And the key levels, they tend to just scream out at you from the chart. Very, very obvious levels where significant buying pressure has came into the market, significant selling pressure, or the market has held for a significant amount of time. So a number of days, and we're seeing strong price movements on each of these days, but the market has been unable to break through. And then we get a very strong move up, we come back down, we find key support, and we press higher once again. So GBP USD, we are on the weekly time frame, and what you can see is already it's clearing up a little bit, and it's because now we're looking at candles that are displaying an entire week of price action. So it's encompassing, where was that stalled section of price action? Here. It's encompassing all of these candles into one single candle. So what it can do is it can clear it up a little bit for you and just make the levels a little bit more obvious. So when you're first starting to practice, you can start on the weekly time frame. And we can see resistance, resistance, support, market presses higher. Up here, we've got resistance once, twice. We also found support down here. And we had a strong bounce. And really that's the main things you're looking for. It's relatively simple. You're just picking out the strong reaction points on each of the markets that you are looking at. Let's look at a few tips to help you pick out the best support and resistance levels. Support and resistance is very rarely an exact level. Instead, think of them as support and resistance zones. Support and resistance is somewhat subjective. You will never have the exact same areas marked as another trader. The most important thing is that you are confident in your zones. You will build confidence through backtesting, forward testing, and also live trading. Areas near round numbers often act as support and resistance areas. Drawing market movements can help you identify strong support and resistance levels and train the eye to spot them. A lot of people focus on the very highest levels of price movements or the lowest levels, but they are not always the key support and resistance area. Okay, so now we are back onto the charts and we're going to focus on the Nasdaq for this portion of the video. What we're going to do is we are first of all going to look at support and resistance in terms of zones rather than exact levels. I'm also going to tie that into looking at why support and resistance is not only at the very highest point or the very lowest point of a price movement, which is a mistake that I see a lot of traders making. We'll then go over why support and resistance is somewhat subjective, and then we'll look at round numbers and drawing movements in order to help you, as a beginner, learn to plot support and resistance levels. So, we are on the Nasdaq. The first thing to look at are the very highest points of market movements and the very lowest points of market movements. When you're marking up support and resistance, it's a very common mistake that I see, that people just mark in the very highest area or the very lowest area. And what we can see is we have the very highest area up here, we get resistance and we move down. As we're coming back up, the market reacts before that level with the strong sell. Support level down here, we reach all the way down, very strong movement, but on the second wave down here, we don't reach that low again before we get the strong bounce. And then you can also actually say, if you come across here, if you marked in the very lowest point, it bounces, it comes down, we've had another relatively strong bounce, but it hasn't reached this level. And that's because support and resistance is looked at as a zone rather than an exact level. You've got to remember, down here, this is where we get the very strong bounce, sure, but a support level is just a level where the buyers are starting to step into the market and then they start to overpower the sellers and the market moves up. So as we're coming down here, every buyer is not buying at this exact level, and they're not buying at this exact level with all of their money. Some are buying here, some are buying here, some are buying here. Okay? And we're looking to identify the levels where the buyers started to step in a strong way and then where they started to take control of the market. So to do that, we look at it in terms of a zone. It's the exact same with resistance levels. This is the exact point where we start to see the sell-off, but the sellers are stepping in here, here on this candle, here on this candle. As we start to press down, they're stepping in here, here, and here. It's an entire level of resistance. Okay, so when we're marking in the zones, we're looking at, so we have the very low down here. For me with this one, really it starts here. So the market's coming down, we're incorporating this very strong spike. We then get the close of this candle, the open of this candle. It spikes down into this little level here, and then we start to find the support. We've got the spike down here, and you can even include this spike all the way down here. For me though, really, it's this whole level. This is where the majority of the buying pressure is starting to come in, because we've got the one test, two tests with the close and the spike down, three tests with the open of the candle before we start to press away. And then what you can see is if you come to the right, market comes down, bounces just up above, spikes down, and then we find the support. If we were marking up this, okay, so perfect. If we were marking up this level, what you can also see is we're looking for more evidence. And you can see the market testing, testing, and testing. Now we've got quite a few spikes down here that you'd very likely want to incorporate. So you'd be marking this up as your potential support and resistance zone, and then as the market comes back to this level, we're testing at the level, and then we find the support. Move forward, we're testing again, and we're finding support. For this one, we're not just looking at the very highest point. We're basically looking and saying, okay, this is a potential resistance area. Where were the sellers really starting to step in? Where can we incorporate everything that was happening? And for me, it's really here. You're incorporating the three spikes up, which is showing that the sellers are stepping in. The market hesitates up here and then starts to sell off. It tries to press up again, but what's happening? The sellers are stepping in. It's this whole area. And then what you can also see is resistance. We break up above, we come back down, we start to find support. 1, 2, market holds, and then we break down. So we're marking in this flat section of price action and the lows of this flat section of price action. If we take the the spike down, the close, the open, it's lining up with the spike up, it's lining up with this spike down over here. We then put in the lower band, and we'd say, okay, we can just take into account this spike down, which creates the support, or we can start to look around the market and see what it's telling us. Yeah, on the way down, the market's coming up, it's finding resistance, and then we're getting a strong move down. We're coming up, we're breaking down, we're testing at this level once again. It's resistance becoming support. And then as you move forward, what do you see? The price reaction. Okay, so in terms of zones, that's pretty much how you're doing it. You're looking for where the majority of the reactions are happening. And then, as you're starting to move forward, you're not just blindly using this zone forever. As you start to move forward, you're looking at the more recent price action and you're starting to say, okay, do my zones still make sense? Do I need to take into account more recent price action? Now, in terms of being subjective, the markets are very subjective. So let's mark in this flat section here. Marking this up as a support and resistance level, this is how I would do it. I would be taking into account all of the flat section here. I'd be taking into account the vast majority of the spikes up. But this one here, this spike up, really for me, it's not overly significant. The majority of the price action and the support and resistance is happening within this area. And then what you can see as we move forward, it's resistance, it's then being used as support, it's then being used as resistance, it's then being used as resistance. However, if I sat down with another trader and we had our screens back to back, it's very unlikely that all of these levels would be exactly the same, because they might look at it and say, okay, I want to incorporate that spike. And there's nothing wrong with that. The main thing with support and resistance is that you are confident in your support and resistance levels. So for this one down here, when we had it marked like this, they may not even have put this in, just had it as one large zone. This whole section back here, when they're marking it up, so you've got resistance multiple times, we then break up, we test as support. They may have it marked up like, let's say, like this, just taking into account where the market was holding at this level, and then where we spiked up into twice. Whereas if I was marking it up, I'd very likely have it like this, because I want to incorporate the flat section of price action right here. Neither are wrong, because it's somewhat subjective. The main thing is you build confidence in your own levels, and you do that really through testing, back testing, forward testing, and just jumping on the charts and plotting your levels. When you're plotting your levels, you can then look and see how the reactions are coming on the market. When you're doing forward testing, again, you can test how the market is reacting. Forward testing, we go over that quite a lot in the Decisive Package course, which you are looking to move on to. I explain how to do it. It's a very, very good way to practice support and resistance levels and get good at identifying them and building that confidence in your own levels. Okay, so now we're going to move on to round numbers and drawing the market movement. So let's just clear all of this off of the chart quickly. And then what we'll look at are round numbers first. So round numbers, very, very simple. If you look to the right, we've got the price levels, 7,010. If we just move it down to, or get it on 7,000, round about here. If we then mark up, let's say,